In this video, we'll see a super GM sack his queen for 2 minor pieces to bring home the win in the candidates with a great kingside attack. And we'll see Mikhail Tal sacrifice his rook in characteristic fashion to open up Black's own castle king, forcing Black to give up his queen. Here we have Mikhail Tal playing the carrier card as white. He wants to play moves such as bishop f4, g3 and h4, starting a kingside attack. He wants to keep this d4 pawn secure with the move c3 early on, potentially bring his rook to e1. Then he can advance on the kingside. Meanwhile, Black will try and hold everything together with bishop e7, knight f6 and castles, and then angle for a good endgame with a queen trade such as queen d5. If White plays c4, this d4 pawn will be very weak, and Black's counterplay is based around fighting this d4 pawn. So Tal was cautious of this. Black played bishop e7, he went c3 immediately, not c4, keeping that d4 pawn secure. Black went knight f6, gaining time on the queen and covering h7, so White went queen h4. Now, making aggressive queen moves might objectively not be the best, but it puts your opponent under pressure, and it means if they miss one tactic, it can often be lethal. So Black plays knight d5. Another benefit of this c3 move is it covers the b4 square. This knight covers some key squares along the diagonal, preventing this bishop finding a home on f4. So White goes queen back to g4, hitting this pawn. If Black castles to defend, we go bishop h6 and win the exchange after g6. So Black goes bishop f6. Not a great square for the bishop because this pawn is fully secure. However, Black can potentially follow up with rook c8 and c5 given time and break down White's centre, and then he'll have a good endgame. So White goes rook e1. Ganging up on this pawn. Tal already knows what he wants. He wants to sacrifice that rook. Then Black goes for a mistake. Queen b6. Now it's not clear why this is a mistake. This is often a good move in similar positions because the queen hits b2. This bishop now can't move. He doesn't appreciate that his opponent is looking to sacrifice this rook on e6. The best move would have been queen e7, actually putting the queen on the same file as the rook, just to support this pawn. Of course, White's actually got no way to exploit the pin. Even c4 and d5 doesn't work because we have the pawn covering the square. And then, of course, the g7 pawn is covered by the bishop. White's not going to be getting mate on h7 anytime soon. White would have to go for a slower plan of f4 and f5. Black would have time to bring his rooks to the centre and defend. Black didn't do this. He went queen b6, and now Tal went c4. Double-edged move because it's anti-positional, but after knight b4, he was planning rook takes e6. Brilliant move. F takes, queen takes, and king f8. White's got 2 pawns for the rook. He's got the 2 bishops. He's got the imminent threat of bishop f4 and d6. He's going to go c5 to gain time on the queen and support this bishop. He's not threatening immediate checkmate, but he's got the plan bishop f4, rook e1, with eventual plans of mating the king because it's stuck in this box. Now, Black is threatening to go rook e8, driving this queen to a worse square, but he can always go queen d6. There will always be a check to gain time on White's king, giving time on Black's king, giving time to develop. So, bishop f4. Black goes rook d8, covering this square. A logical move. Again, it's only plus 0.3 here, but who would you rather be? The man who's just sacrificed a rook with a crushing kingside attack, or the side that's desperately trying to defend with his king on f8 and his rook locked out of the game? White's effectively knocked down a rook here. Now the only way for White to continue the attack is to throw more wood on the fire with c5. So this wins the queen, but it does allow Black to capture on d3 and then on f4 with tempo. Black would have a rook and 2 bishops for the queen, so it'd be up material. White's attack will continue though, and Black's king will still be misplaced. So White plays c5. Knight takes d3, c takes b6, and knight takes f4. Now the queen can come back and attack this knight on g4. It's also attack. We've got an attack on the pawn on a7. We've got a double attack. Black can only deal with the knight. He brings it back to the strong outpost d5. Now we have time to play this move, and then our long-term plan will be potentially moving the queen back to f3 and then g4, g5, winning this bishop, forcing Black to waste more time with his king. We're obviously going to move our rook to the e file. If Black loosens up his control of this square, we can go queen e6 to e8 check. Now, this pawn on a7 will always be a thorn in black's position. He needs to waste 2 moves with the rook to pick it up, and then his rook will be on a passive square. So black would rather not waste time doing that. He'd rather play moves like g6, king g7, get the rook into the game, but then he's always got to keep a rook on the back rank to look after this pawn. So we take on a7. Now here black went wrong with king e7. Again, it just looks like a bad move. Why would you put the king on the same file as the rook coming to e1? It makes no sense. A better move would have been either king f7 or g6, king g7. Simple stuff, get the king out of the way, castle by hand, and get the rook into the game. Otherwise white will, as I said, just start attacking with the kingside pawns. So king e7, b4, Tal goes for another amazing sacrifice. So this knight can take the pawn, it will destabilise the knight, and when you've got your king in the middle and pieces hanging everywhere, the chances of a fork drastically goes up. So we're going to want to go rook e1, queen e6, get onto the e file before black can bring his rook into the game. Again, we've got this latent threat. If black does nothing, we can play b5, destabilise this weak c pawn, and then gang up on it and win it. So black played rook a8. This is actually quite a poor move. It'd be better just to carry on developing. Rook e1, king d6, b5, and rook takes a7. So black got what he wanted, but it's now +4. So rook e6 check, king c7, and the coup de grace. Give you a few seconds, can you see it? It's rook takes f6. Now knight takes, queen takes, picks up the rook with this fork. So a great finish from Tal, and you can see when your pieces are all active, the tactics appear by themselves. So great kingside attack from Tal. Hopefully it's inspired you to do the same in your own games. Now let's get on to the next one. Now here we have a Petrov defense. Maybe not the opening you were expecting in a video about queen sacrifices, but it quickly turns sharp. So white plays the Steinitz attack, d4. Knight takes e4, d takes e5, a pawn trade, and bishop c5. A double-edged alternative because white can't really defend this f2 pawn, but queen d5 will pick up one of these minor pieces if black does nothing. The best move for white here is bishop c4, hitting this f7 pawn. If black does nothing, we'll take on f7, king f7, queen d5 check, picks up this bishop. So, for example, if black played knight c6, that's what we'd do. The best move here, well, the line continues d5, e takes, and now bishop f2 check, king f1, and castles. These are bizarre computer moves that don't make sense to a human, because if we play queen e2, we're hitting this knight, so black will end up giving the piece back, but we've got a king stuck on f1, our rook stuck on h1. It's going to take 3 moves to untangle with king g3, king g2, and king safety is always going to be a problem for us. So white didn't want to go for this line, and this is actually equal, so black got the draw he wanted. So white went queen d5, objectively not the best move, because it allows bishop takes, king e2, and f5. Now we go knight c3 to destabilise this knight. It creates a threat of king takes f2 down the line, and black went counter-attacked with c6. What you want to do when you're seizing the initiative. If white was boring, which he isn't, he went queen d3. He would go queen d3. So black would probably respond with queen e7, hit this pawn, prepare d6, get the queen side active. Black can castle on the queen side or king side, bring the rooks into the centre, and white's uncastled king will be a long-term chronic weakness. So white might go bishop g5 just to exchange some pieces off. Knight takes, and then king takes f2. White can slowly castle by hand with g3, bishop g2, bring the rooks to the centre, but is always going to be weak along, for example, this diagonal. So instead, he went for the aggressive option, knight takes e4, giving up the queen on d5. Now black takes on d5, white plays knight d6, preventing black from castling, and now it's black's king that's going to be the long-term weakness. White goes king f2. Now if black goes queen b6 check, he's a bit greedy, we can go bishop e3. If queen takes b2, bishop d3 covering this pawn. Now white's given up one pawn, he's activated both bishops, he's threatening to activate the rook with rook fb1, and the attack can start 3 moves earlier. Black will have to play something like queen c6 just to cover this bishop, and it's already looking quite dire. We can start expanding on the king side. So instead black went knight c6, we go bishop e3, developing. Our long-term plan is bishop d3. Black's going to kick us around with the pawn, but we can just keep the bishop on this diagonal, bring the rooks to the centre, and eventually advance on the king side. d4, bishop f4, queen b6. Again, I would say this is not the best practical try, because Black is already up 4 points of material. Why is he going for this pawn so he can be 5 points of material up? It doesn't make sense. It would have been better just to play something active, maybe counter-sacrifice your own pawn with b5. Then if knight takes, you've got time to bring this bishop out to b7 or a6. The best move for white is actually just to keep developing with bishop d3 here. And then the game might continue queen b6. You've got this nice square for your fianchetto bishop. But Black didn't do that. He went queen b6, bring the queen away from the defence. White went bishop d3, covering the c2 pawn, knight e7. This is an inaccuracy. Now, why is that? You can see what Black was going for. He wanted to bring the knight to the d5 square. White can't kick it away with c4, because then just en passant. So this bishop will be moving away yet again. White can preempt this, though, prophylactically with bishop d2. So, what's that knight doing on d5? It would have been better to maybe get the king to safety with moves like h6, king g8, king h7. Again, king safety is paramount. When your opponent sacrificed all this material, get your king to safety. Anyway, Black went knight e7, bishop d2, and knight d5. Now, at this point, White can pick up a pawn with bishop takes f5. Both kings are now on the only open file of the board. Black has got this juicy outpost with the knight on e3, which is indeed what he does next. We go bishop back to d3. Now, Black has the option of making his king safe by bringing it all the way to the queen side, which is a bizarre plan. You do sometimes see it. I'm not going to say it's completely crazy, but the thing is, if he can get to the queen side, which will take a few moves, White will just be down a piece. So Black went king e7, rook he1. Now he's threatening to pick up yet another pawn with bishop takes, d takes, rook takes, and then he can go rook to e1. He's got knight f5 check and e6 down the line. Rook f8, rook takes e3, exchange sacrifice. Pantala is clearly not a boring player. D takes, bishop takes, and rook takes f3. Counter-sacrificing the exchange. Now, why did Black do this? Well, he's up 4 points of material, so if he gives up the exchange, he's still up 2. But if he plays something greedy, like queen takes b2, White's got such a nice mating net with bishop to g5. Both these squares are covered by the knight. He can't retreat. The king has to come forward, and we go bishop c4 with mate. Amazing. All 4 minor pieces collude to checkmate this king in the centre of the board. Anyway, Black prevented this with rook f3, king f3, and queen takes b2. Now Black takes the bait. We go bishop g5 check, king f8. Sorry, not king f8, king e6. Okay. I mean, if king went back to f8, we just play rook f1, threaten the discovery. We have ideas of bishop c4, cutting away the king's escape. And again, Black's in a mating net. His development, he might be up 3 points of material, but his development, which would require b6, bishop a6, and bring the rook to f8, let's say, is far too slow. His king is effectively stranded on its own. King e6, rook e1, supporting this pawn. It's always good to take 1 or 2 moves in the attack just to shore up the defences and say, my attack is ongoing despite me playing a move like rook e1. What are you going to do to defend? b5, covering this square. Quite a good prophylactic move. I mean, Black is playing on, credit to him, even though it's +3. Bishop f5, king d5, a king hunt, bishop e4, king e6, and now we take on a8, and now the material pendulum swings back in White's favour. He's got an ongoing attack with mating nets, and he's up material. Black played a few checks, probably his only hope is perpetual here. Rook e3, queen c2, bishop e4, kick the queen, king g3. White's king can always hide on h3. He's got enough minor pieces around that this queen can't get perpetual. The danger is if you go queen h3 king h3 too soon, queen h5, bishop h4, and g5 might be annoying. So got to watch out for that. It might be worth playing h3 and king h2, to be honest. Anyway, Black went queen h5, h4, and Black resigned the game. You might have carried on by h6, let's say. White would go bishop f3, queen g6. You can go check, drive black's king into the centre. White can even pick up this material in exchange for this piece. And white's king is secure, he's up material, he's slowly going to manoeuvre around, pick up pawns. So given this is a candidates game, black resigned. I think this is a fantastic queen sacrifice we can all learn from, and I hope you enjoyed it.